But then the question is, how and where do you want to see them trying to do that? We'll be heading into third pick and ban very shortly, so we'll keep our eyes on that. As we can see, LNG will be over on our blue side, so that could well be a Tristana first pick if it's up and available, but actually, it's the Corki that's been left up, and so that gets snapped up straight away in the response pretty swiftly, though. It's the Wei and the Leona.
It does feel like, again, those primary AD mid laners are what's looked at as the first pick priority. The Tristana's off the table, so the Corki comes through, it opens up something like Wei to go towards an AP jungler. Won't have something like that in Italy, which can punish a lot of the other farming junglers. But it does kind of open up AP options elsewhere. The meta right now has been find an AP carry somewhere on the map, and it doesn't have to be mid lane. Gala has been one of the better LPL Ziggs players, and he's going to lock that in, maybe alongside a Nautilus, since that's already come in.
That might well be a good call. I think I could definitely see that. You've already got the lock-in of Gala on the Ziggs, as you kind of mentioned. It's something he's very well known for, but they need to sort of think about maybe trying to deal with banning away that Nautilus now, I guess, for RA, because they did decide to go for the Renekton for Zucker, who does often default to the champion, and Xiaoshu, you kind of said, like, he's pretty okay, but if you're now going to have to deal with the blind pick Renekton, you need to have an answer into it. Skarner's up. It's an okay enough matchup, and the champion in general is pretty strong right now, let's be real.
Yeah, and it feels like RA really have themselves a really good tank frontline with this, and with the long range of the Wei, we do have a little bit of that long range backline tank frontline coming through. We don't have the biggest flank threats coming through right now to kind of break open this front to back. I'm interested to see whether we'll see something which can do that from the remaining roles to be left in. I suppose Zucker can get his way onto the backline somehow in some of these fights. It's quite hard getting through that Leona and the Skarner though. So it feels like it is going to be front to back. In a weird way, I think this favors LNG because LNG don't really acknowledge that flanks exist even when they're in drafts, which could call for them. So when it comes to straight down to a front to back, it does kind of feel like LNG just lose the plot a bit when it comes around to whenever flanks are in the game. I don't know whether it's an object permanence thing. It's just like, I can't see the flank and therefore we shall front to back.
I've been dealing with that a little bit anyway, because I'm really bad with object permanence with messages specifically. Because I do, because it's like it's an ADHD thing where if you don't look at a message for a while, it kind of you lose track of it if there's a few of them at once. It's definitely a horrible thing to be managing. As we then see over here, as RA have not lost the object permanence of AP junglers, which are pretty busted at the moment. Of course, with the Ziggs bot lane, they're not necessarily shy on the magic damage, but I can see Karthus plus Ziggs being a potentially dangerous combo.
I actually think the problem here is, I actually think damage can be comparable. We've got, you know, AD carries banned on one side, jungler's banned on the other. I am very surprised that Nautilus or Rakan wasn't banned away.
That's actually really true.
From LNG, because you need some CC to lock in that Ziggs. I mean, you could also go for the Sejuani or something like that from jungle. I think that the damage is already there from LNG. Maybe RA were just saying, look, we have the better tank frontline. Let's just deny any heavy damage options coming from jungle, so we will win the DPS check, and we have the better frontline. Skarner's going to be tanking the Renekton. Leona, besides Alistar, is about the tankiest champion in bot lane as well. Now you've got the Jinx. I think that RA actually win the damage check right now when it comes to carry versus carry. LNG, I think they might have to either go for like heavy out tank or find another damage source in the jungle.
There's that Nautilus. It wasn't banned. You called it out earlier, and it gets through to blue 4 as far as the pick. And then they're looking at a Lilia, which gets locked in. Lilia's been a champion that's not had that much success, though, for all that her priority has certainly risen over the kind of beginning of this split.
Wei is a notable Lilia player, though. He was playing it towards that last year, and now, as we were kind of saying, LNG, they were kind of either looking for like heavy tank to match the Leona Skarner or more damage to outvalue that tank stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're tanky if the damage is too much. On the other side, though, RA, they just say, okay, right, I think that LNG doesn't have the tank compared to a rare atom. That means you can kill the first target better. Now you have double resets between Jinx and Viego. I think this game is going to be largely about front to backs. I think it's going to be largely about how the front line performs, because if that first kill goes to rare atom now, I think that double resets with Leona locking someone down for the huge damage to come through will be the ceiling factor in this game. So LNG need to be very careful about giving up that first kill.
For sure, it's not an RE to add into the resets, but the double ones there, as you noted, already dangerous enough. Of course, LNG, the range and burst is pretty huge here. A Ziggs bomb into a Corki like combo with the Lilia sleep. You can definitely blow people up yourself, but if you do mess it up, and LNG haven't been the cleanest, I think, right now, there is very much a world where those extended fights with the resets coming through get very difficult to manage.
And again, we did say LNG, they should realistically be coming into this as favorites, but neither of these teams have looked fantastic in their first series. It has kind of felt like they've had a lot to be rebuilding, particularly for LNG from last year. It's not even the start of a rebuilding for them. They've been doing that since spring. And on the other side, feels like Rare Atom, they've had some pieces work out for them, but it has been few and far between. We're heading ever closer and closer towards that riff for our first game of the day. So let us know how you're feeling in chat as well, how you feel about these drafts, how you feel about these teams, and we'll be getting into things.
Oh, it's you on the Rift. I recognise.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Splash up.
Hello. Yep. King Viego. Definitely not made after my likeness. It turns out there are a lot of people with brown hair and cheekbones, but you know.
True enough, but there was not everyone else has had an article written about them looking like Viego. That's shout out to Esports News UK for doing that particular piece. Skybox up. Gyos begin to ring out for LNG first.
敌军还有30秒到达战场。
A little poke there at the level 1, but not too much to be found. In the picture-in-picture, we can see some Scout fans out there. He certainly has a few of them in the LPL. A long-standing mid laner at this point for the region.
Scout has one of the largest fan bases of any player within the LPL. I mean, you have the Shy and you have Jackie Love, who are like very, very popular, but Scout has kind of, you know, over years and years from 2016 onwards really managed to like gain himself a huge appreciation as well. I think there's something special about the World's winners from China, particularly from the 2018 era of IG, because that was the first year when China really believed that they could be the best region in the world, and for years after that, they in fact were actually. But I think also the 2021 EDG World's winning roster, because EDG were, again, one of those really popular organizations, and Scout was one of the players on that, which had led them to success over so many years. He's gained an awful lot of reputation from that last year as well. He's an incredible player. Got double kind of like record-breaking MVP splits for the number of player of games that he had. The bot side isn't be too much of a trade, but yeah, it feels like Scout has been such a big player for this org, and he has the fan base to go with it.
It's always been one of those kind of huge watershed moments in the league that he left EDG. He moved on to LNG, and it was looking like a great decision for most of last year, and then it didn't quite come together in the end with that slight end of season collapse and stuff. But of course, this year around, it's been a little bit more tough sailing, looking to try and right some of those wrongs. And here against Rare Atom, we've said it before, we'll say it again, it should be LNG being relatively comfortable favourites here. But as we've seen across the LPL in general, it's been not as simple as just saying that.
Yeah, it's been a huge meta shift from spring to summer. So some of our teams have had to level up. They've had to glow up. They've had to figure out the meta before these other teams which didn't go to MSI, which have been kind of waiting for their shot to come back in summer. Maybe even the ones which didn't even make playoffs as well. Sit there and Brad will come back with a bit of a better take on things. I think that, again, Rare Atom, I actually think they have a better composition in this game in a lot of ways. I think their tanks are going to be tankier. I think their threat once one kill goes down is very, very powerful. But LNG, it's not like they don't have big Happy's player in as well. Gets jump forward from Scout there as well. That Corki will, of course, be a big part of that. He's going for the Triforce build, be better at killing tanks into the late game, less of that assassination threat onto the squishies, but Scout very much, like we saw from Shanks the other day as well, can do unspeakable things on Corki.
And in fairness, with the way this comp's laid up, he probably has to be able to hurt most people in the game equally. He's the main AD threat when you've got the big AP carry jungler and it's an AP carry in the bot lane. Renekton will have a little bit of burst in there, but he's not exactly what you call consistent AD DPS.
No, he is a flash and like a million damage and one small burst, and then everyone else just scatters to the wind or they
really
die.
strong at specifically level 7 with Eclipse.
You know, Renekton is such an interesting champion specifically within the LPL, because for a long time we used to have Renekton mid, and that was something which
true.
I remember Raz, and I remember Lyric, and I remember a couple of, I think Dagda as well, obviously it was around during that era too. We're talking about, just LPL Renekton mid laners would do and be playing stuff like that, would just, even if they would die, if they didn't use Flash, would not use Flash until they turned up to a Dragon fight, because they knew they'd just obliterate a carry with Blade, like Eclipse, and when that came through as well. It's like, well, okay, we have killed the AD carry with our Flash. See you again in 5 minutes. And that's exactly what would happen. It was such a fun champ. I kind of miss mid lane, like AD Assassin Renekton. That was actually quite a fun time.
So, I mean, yeah, it was like, obviously I've been talking with Aragon a fair bit because I was doing a bit of masters with him, and obviously huge Renekton, mate. And he was sort of saying, he basically plays Black Cleave for Shojin and kind of like wants to like Eclipse, but it feels like really good for about 30 seconds and then falls off the cliff a little bit.
Perhaps I could introduce Aragon to a good friend of ours, Allah, who does incredible work on this late game. It's definitely a much harder version to play. Much like the, I think this is a very similar conversation because I've had similar conversations with Aatrox mains, where you end up getting to this point where if you're going for the lethality version of these bruiser champions, you just don't have the tank that you've played for years with. Like, oh yes, I can survive through to this. Well, you do kill the enemy champion very quickly, but if you don't do that, you don't have the staying power of some of these other builds. So with that in mind, we will see what Zucker builds. I would imagine it's probably going to be towards Eclipse, Sundered Sky, something like that. Again, typically the Eclipse first item has been very powerful on the Renekton. And what we've seen is it allows you to transfer over from that dominant early game to then baton pass over to something like the Lilia, the Corki, and the Ziggs to carry a little bit later. But towards that bot side, not going to land.
Awesome though, still in a difficult position for the fantastic satchel charge. Gala, take a bow. I thought those chompers would be enough, but instead, Assam is forced to blow both summoners early on in the lane.
And Hung comes in, and remember, Hung was fighting for a spot in Spring. It was Mark that he was trading places with, and he's the one that won out on that trade deal. He's then, well, I say trade deal, won out on that whole vaguely substitute kind of situation, and he ends up getting himself a good hook in there. We now have Xiaohao. And wait, not really impacting the map. We've talked a lot about how the junglers drafted change the pace of your early game. If you have Xin Zhao and you have Lee Sin, it's going to be fast. If you're going to have Karthus and Lilia, it's going to be slow. This time that we have one of one of the other, Hung might go flashing forward, hits it onto Victor.
And that's such good buffering there with the Redstone through the Devastator, Grim Gizzards, that's the name of that particular fear ability, but still, nice little look in mid lane, even if it doesn't lead to all that much. All the while though, Jue and Xiaohao will be taking the dragon.
Well, that's the first objective of the game, down at least in trade for the grubs on the top side, but just spawned as well as this two. Way, of course, on the earlier. Very, very quick. They're taking those. As we said, we've kind of got one slow jungler, one fast jungler. Technically, Viego can play slower and farm as well, but I was wondering whether Rare Atom could have forced through the Viego Leona against the Lilia, and they are walking in towards these Raptors, trying to stop Lilia from, taking them in the way that only really she can. You can see that the farm advantage hasn't really materialized yet. Viego has actually been farming well.
Yeah, and of course Lilia's doing that too. And Viego's a champion that can actually play to hard farm a little bit, even if he does have a bit more of a flexible way of playing, I guess. It's not an awful gank if you can find people to combo up with, but one of those, the reason we saw Viego for such a long time is it felt like he was a good one comp fit, one champion fits all comps. How do I phrase that? One comp fits all, one champion fits all.
One of my favorite things about Viego's Hung, looking for another hook, it's onto the Eclipse Leona who has Aftershock. I don't think you're going to get it. Folks, it's Aftershock Eclipse Leona. She does not give a damn.
I was thinking, if that Swell Seed had landed, there might have been a lilting lullaby and they could have timed out the Eclipse and Aftershock, but Swell Seed misses, so it doesn't quite work out.
I mean, we talk about the Ziggs being paired up with Rakan, Nautilus, Leona. You can technically land that Swell Seed as well and get the Lilia ult into the Ziggs ult big damage. You can see if Drake doesn't have Aftershock right now.
Drake does have to flash on that Hung to eat an Ignite, so it'll be the additional summoner lost from RA. You can see that Gala just having the level 6 gave them way more burst than I think they were accepting.
And so Jue, finding out that Aftershock is used like once every other wave just about. If you don't know the exact timing of your runes, you either know that it's going to be activated multiple times in a short space of time, something like Airy or whatever, or it's like once per wave or once per other wave. Now, one of the things, this is going to be a weird tangent, folks, so stay with me as well. It's one of the reasons why sometimes Nasus can beat Quinn by taking a bad trade. Because on one wave, you let Quinn blow Phase Rush, and then the next wave, you end up killing them when they don't have the slow resist. It's really annoying. Xiaoshu trying to get himself a good trade here. It's a Conqueror on that Renekton. That won't save him here, though.
He gets slammed into a wall, and that combo is just so disgusting. One of the things that Skarner does is set up for junglers like nobody else right now.
And Zucker's been doing well in the individual lane, did well at kind of getting that early CS advantage, went towards the Cull, was farming up, and then realized, oh wait, the game has come to me. Even though I'm decided to cancel on the back. Vikla getting caught out.
Swell Seed, that could be really nasty. They'll get the lilting lullaby down, Jue's over the wall, but it's not really going to be able to get invested that easily. Immediately, the flash has to come on through, the Dream Dust burn brings him down another 5% or so afterwards too.
And so Vikla, he's going to be put into a position with no flash. That's going to be very important because, as you've said, Sam, in that bot lane play, and then of course into this one as well, these have been flashes for no flashes. Dwayne no flash, Vikla no flash, and Weiwei and Hung have theirs. That's really important. They can force plays after this point. Yes, it was a forcing a play on the top side. Zerka had the wave in a good spot. He was looking to just push this one out and get himself a good trade, and just kind of overcommits at the wrong moment. Sees that Xiao Hao's on that ward, but by the time he shows that,
bit too late.
It's a little too late.
Impale into Ixtal's impact of Ixtal.
I think it's Ixtal's impact. Yeah.
Edge of Ixtal is Kiana Q, which is the one I've known for forever.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. I find it weird the lore that they've done between those two now, where effectively Skarner is just like kind of like old conservative that wants to shut the borders.
Yeah, I know. It's like opposite of Galio.
Yeah. I like Galio's lore a lot, by the way. I don't love what they did with Galio's lore in Legends Runeterra, I'll say.
What did they do with that?
They kind of added a load of extra statues, which it kind of confused things a little bit. Okay. I don't have, I never read into the specifics, so I read a bit of it, got a bit annoyed, and then I kind of forgot about it a little bit.
That sounds like me with like a number of a lot of people with specific fandoms. Like, no, it's not my lore that I once knew and loved. Why is it different now?
I've sat there like looking at like 3 different revisions of Ahri lore, and I'm like, well, and then we got the Rune King game, and I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of fits what I thought. You know what? I'll just go with that. Yeah. You know, for someone who's a super fan of the champion, I was quite vague on the lore for a while. I was like, does she take people's souls anymore? Is that a thing?
Actually, speaking of Scarlet's actually potentially at a point now where
he'll satchel charge. You can in fact, so you can tell the icon above the turret. Also, if you level satchel seconds, the execute range goes up as well. So there are some. It used to be the case in the past where you could actually max satchel second, 1 for mobility and 2 just for tower killing potential.
Yeah, I suppose in the early game as well, when you've got things like plates to be considering, a little bit more execute threshold could be pretty nuts. But I was about to say, mate, I need to start an intervention.
Yeah.
We've got 16 seconds for this dragon, and I still think I want to do this because
you do.
I saw your reply to Cable last night about the Ahri statue. And how much money you are planning to pay towards Ahri, mate? What's going on?
Well, so you see, there's a certain skin which costs $500 or euros or whatever, and there's a statue which is about $260. And I did the quick calculation. That's about $760. And I thought, well, my bank account's not the healthiest it's ever been, but it could end up being a little bit less so in the near future. Can we talk about the dragon now, Sam, so we don't have to talk about my spending habits on Ahri match?
We probably ought to. LNG, I think you're coming on over, and I will rescue Alex from his, I call it shame, but I think it's just decision-making. It's the dragon! Attempted steal there from Scout, and a little bit of a bomb going across as well, but it's still going to be well smoked away, so it all works out just fine.
Zucker ends up getting himself free lane towards topside, and yes, folks, for those of you who are less familiar with LNG, they are effectively the LCK team within the LPL. In fact, last year I found it very interesting. Well, I would have found it interesting if Tarzan hadn't completely obliterated his own form, but T1 LNG was going to be so interesting it was last year, because it was like the LPL team within the LCK, and then the LCK team within the LPL. It was a great matchup, and LNG played things out slowly, and they come alive in mid-game. We've said that they can sometimes struggle to have plans in early game, but it's working out right now. Gal flashes away from the Zenith Blade. But anyway, as things calm down a bit, I think that LNG right now, they're going to start getting to the point where Scout's in a side lane, he can start collecting a load of waves, they're going to cash in double culls on solo lanes, they're going to get huge items, and I feel like RA, they haven't done enough in this early game, they're behind a lot of gold now, to stop LNG from getting towards their mid-game and then towards strong team fights with this team.
I think you now look at the gold graph here, and that kind of speaks about it, right? Gala gets first turret, all plate. Scout playing in the mid lane, doing fine, getting a few of his own, is about to cash in the cull in 10 CS. Zucker, despite giving over that initial kill, gets so many plates topside. It's just good laning from LNG right now. The objectives, yeah, going the way of RA in terms of the double dragons and 3 of the grubs, so they have got that going for them, but how easy is it going to be for them to continue playing with those objectives as the game goes on into mid-game? That's going to be a different question for sure.
Yeah. Now, one of the big things we came out from draft is saying that Rare Atom have a better front line. The Leona and the Skarner should be better frontliners than the Renekton and the Nautilus. We've already seen that Zucker can get killed by Xiaoxu and Xiao Hao, and that's even without one of the carries there as well. So LNG, they still, despite the fact that they have a gold lead, despite the fact that they're going to be cashing in culls as well to get themselves even more gold onto their specific members, they need to be very careful for the first team fights of the game to make sure that they're not overestimating their tankiness. How much damage Rare Atom could potentially bring, even though they are currently 2,000 gold behind. I've got Herald spawning. That might be the cause of that fight.
If this fight goes wrong, then suddenly the game looks a lot less playable for LNG, because then RA get rid of the gold lead, and they have the objective lead. At this point, RA, if it goes wrong, doesn't matter that much, because they still scale just fine. They can still wait a little bit. For LNG, this will be a big deciding moment. I think you're absolutely right. Already looking to fight for vision control on the river. A lot of control wards going down as we speak.
Alright, they're not positioned great to contest this. I don't think they should be giving up this Herald. If they give up this Herald, that's potentially mid lane turret getting a huge chunk out of it. Again, you've got Ziggs with a Herald push. You need to be very careful at giving over that kind of pushing potential too. LNG aren't starting this though. They're deciding to hang around mid lane. Scout hasn't managed to get himself back for another spend after that Cole's been cashed in, but he's hit all the same.
Did manage to work his way over here from the return to the base. And that's why LNG were a little slow to start off the Herald, actually. Resets coming through as in the picture-in-picture. There is a fight happening between the two top laners. Ult popped by Zucker.
But the thing is, now Zucker won't have himself the ultimate if he teleports in, and what he's trying to do is stop Xiaoshu being able to teleport in immediately to a player around Herald. He can still recall and go towards it if he wants, and then if Zucker were to do the same, he wouldn't have that dominance. It's going to be a Jinx ult steal, and that's it. Rare Atom. I feel like this is a bit of Safari League of Legends. You walk up, you spectate, you have your binoculars, you see the Herald going down, and you do nothing about it.
How extraordinary, says David Attenborough, somewhere out there in the distant forests of England. But yeah, you're right. I think Aston backing away as well to finish off a Kraken Slayer. An important fight, don't get me wrong. Playing on a part complete would have kind of sucked, so I see why that happened. But it still meant they sat there and postured and played for mid lane control for no reason, and now they lose another turret, and they've got Herald against them.
Yeah, so you've got Cull about to be cashed in by Zucker. It's already cashed in by Scout. You just gave up a Herald. You just gave up top lane outer turret. You're probably giving up mid lane outer turret for this too. And yeah, Rare Atom, I think they are getting towards the point where their half-life is starting to become quite apparent here. It's not that long, Sam. The Rare Atom is starting to decay.
Yeah, and it's a festival for one of these bot laners because there's some free-ass boots as kind of additional kind of like, it's kind of what you get in the goodie bag for going to the party. And then on top of that, he's gone and bought himself a Leandries and a Ludens. Pre-20 minutes, is about to have a Herald crash in mid lane with a satchel. This Ziggs is going to hit like a truck.
Yeah, Ziggs is like, I just had this vision of like him putting on the mask and picking up the Luden's gun and just going on his rampage. Folks, someone stop him. We know what Gala can do. They have themselves a slanting Lullaby. The ult over the top.
Vikla down at 10% HP. The burn is so annoying.
But LNG have just in one fell swoop taken Herald, top lane turret, mid lane turret, get a great chunk onto the Seam and onto Vikla, which means they take the Dragon. RA have not contested anything for 5 minutes at this point, pretty much. This is exactly how you lose the game to like the Ziggs and the Corki and the Lilia. Now, I think that again, Rare Atom don't have a bad teamfight composition. I think that Jinx, I think that Way, I think that the Viega resets off of that as well can be really powerful. It's not this good though to give up that much.
So all I'm saying is, if this was my Residence Association, I would be complaining because I've got my structures falling down in front of me as hooligans come and blow them up, but they're doing nothing about it. Like, what am I paying this Residence Association for?
You know, Rare Atom might be, you know, one of those heavier radioactive elements, but I think LNG stands for Le Noble Gas.
Really?
Because they've not exactly done much interacting with our RA either. They've just been chilling, they've been existing, they have a full outer shell of electrons, and they've decided, no, we shall not commit to these petty team fights. We have 0 kills, a ton of objectives in gold, and we're happy with that.
Why do I have a horrible feeling the way you flirt is you go, hey girl, you've got a full outer shell of electrons.
Hey, you look stable and non-interactive. Do you have a full shell of electrons?
You heard it here, guys. Throw that in your Tinder bio. Results guaranteed.
Oh god, that's just I can't believe I just said that in front of, you know, several hundred people. Right, that's a thing. Going for easy. Next stage of play, we have 2 items coming through now. As we said, Gal is really strong, and maybe he'll be determining the next phase of play.
I'm not really sure where to go from that, and I'm aware I took us down that rabbit hole, and we found Wonderland, and it was a bad idea. There was a Cheshire cat and a slightly unusual time.
I mean, I think Oh god, I mean, we've got Baron spawning in a minute. That'll be something. I think Baron's the real first kind of objective, which no one can be willing to give up. You can't, like, give that one up. And when you've got, you know, double Leandries, the users for the side of LNG, and I think blue side is easier to start up Baron for. LNG might try a Baron bait or two while they try and pull people around the map. Scout's currently on
Scout.
weak side. He's going to have 3 people on his side. He has Valkyrie, he has himself that flash, but he might just die all the same.
Needs to flash. The Spectral Maw does not, but still has just enough time to get on out of there. Reminder, the Viego stun scales to how long you hold it.
And also, you don't see this for many Corkis in the current meta, has Merc Treads. And I think that's ended up being the difference. Those Merc Treads really coming in valuable. Ends up not stopping the engage though onto his jungler. That's going to be one combo and a missed ult from Vikla.
Unfortunate. Means the damage back now with the Aftershock down is so nasty from Scout. The last rocket and a Frost Bomb might do it, but Gala coming on up. Here comes the tactical nuke.
Ooh.
Lands at the edge of it, but not anything more. The Eclipse Shield will keep him alive.
Leona, tanky is this champion. It has allowed a lot of our supports to revisit the point where they actually could play as a frontliner without having someone like an Alistar ult. Dwaygat's out alive, but what this means is that because RA have been pushed out on the top side of the map after committing a lot of ultimates, they're not going to be able to commit combat the vision control, which is just put down from LNG. They need to very quickly get into that topside jungle, switch out some of that vision as well, get themselves a sweeper on that, and make sure that LNG don't have themselves a free run at Baron with their Leandries carries and the Corki, because if they are currently flying into Fog of War to contest Baron, this isn't going to be Safari, this is going to be alone in the savannah at night where the cats are hunting.
Well, aside from Safaris, can I take a quick pilgrimage to the land of Nymaera of the Build Wisdom?
Okay, yeah.
We've got a Blood Razor Nautilus.
Right. Okay, so in terms of a lot of our kind of like support items, if you are looking at trying to kill the first frontline target, if you manage to get the Q into the auto, then you do get that exposed weaknesses, which can help your big carries do a lot of damage. And I think on the other side, if you look at the carries being behind from Rare Atom, you think, actually, that makes a lot of sense. You're less tanky without that Celestial opposition, but it might just help you get the first kill like this.
Try and blow out the Leona that's been so annoying to deal with. The Chompers go down, don't get that much value as that flash over the wall from Hung, but there's a Severing Bolt afterwards, and the Baron aggroes the Rocket! Makes that a 1-for-1.
It does. The Baron gets aggro. The ult comes across from Assume. I actually think that by flashing away, the way ult triggers the Baron aggro, does a little bit more damage. So a little bit of funny stuff there, but Rare Atom get themselves 1 kill. LNG get their first kill of the game.
Congrats.
By the way, and LNG, despite having really good setup around the Baron, don't really cleanly execute on it. They still have themselves the gold advantage, they still have themselves good setup around the top side of the map, and they're pushing lanes, but that's not really what we wanted from the execution.
And as we can see, Blood Razor means you are just that little less tanky, but you did manage to finally kill the Leona, I guess.
Yeah, so Blood Razor is great when you get that auto on that first target, because it means that all of your teammates hitting that first target, which Nautilus Leona set up very well for, can be really impactful. See that they're just about the burn from double Leandries is actually stacked together now. Back in the past, only one Leandries would tick. Now both of them do. Double burn gets the Leona.
Finally brought down that champion that's been pretty tanky, let's be real. Third items, though, beginning to come on through. This Ziggs is really farming up a pace. It's got a Crypt Bloom nice and early, so the burn will be hitting a little bit harder. Infinity Edge just done for Scout as well. They are here and ready to fight.
That Crypt Bloom is really important because it also gives a load of cooldown reduction for this point in the game. You have that between multiple items, which are quite rare for mages right now. Gala going to be flinging out artillery shots at a high rate with high damage. Gala can very much carry these fights.
Okay, Dragon started. Sway goes forwards. He's been very aggressive with the plays. The turnaround comes on through. Skarner tries to get towards Flatline and Gala flashes away. Zucker, feared but not down. Sway is dead. The Impale comes on through. It's only on the Nautilus. Not the best ever. And the Viego dies before the resets can come on through. Jinx in the backline is burning down, flashing away from the blooming blow, and the burn won't quite finish her off. Xiaoshu needs to run away. Rocket is stopwatched as Wei Wei shows the way and gets bit of a style point onto the Jinx.
Wei Wei very nearly burns down both carries. Vikla makes it out. Assume sadly doesn't. That's going to be Baron. LNG don't even bother stopping towards that dragon. We have ourselves the first big fight of the game. And Rare Atom can't make much out from that gold difference. It feels like with the item differential, LNG are going to completely walk away with this. 5-man Baron, they'll be able to reset. They might lose themselves the dragon for taking the Baron, but I think they're more than happy with this. As we go back in towards that replay, I think that going towards the Lilith is a good pull, but the follow-up just isn't there. With the Swell Seed landing on the backline, the engage is broken up by Wei Wei. It's like, okay, you hit me, your backline CC, they can't even do any damage. You ends up on full HP after the engage. almost burns down the Wei, almost burns down the Jinx after, has to wait for his teammate Scout to come in and clean that one up. But seriously, this Lilia did work this fight.
That is a very clean stopwatch as well. I wonder whether that into an auto might have been enough to bring down Wei, who has had a really good game. And you called it out, like, he is obviously a historical Lilia player, and he's showing why the champion can still be getting. Some of our other junglers have yet to really figure out the nuance of a champion that can at times be a little tricky to team fight with.
Yeah, I think particularly in this current meta, there's a lot of stuff that just stops Lilia from running around.
Breaks her ankles.
Yeah, oh god, don't make me think about the horse race on this one.
Oh, I'm Bambi. I was sorry. I was going, but no, that's fine too. The Grand National on Summoner's Rift.
Breaks her legs. I'm sorry, girl.
What?
No one tell Dums.
Go find Graves. That's what he does in his spare time, apparently.
Oh god, Jesus, man. I'm pretty sure the character in Bambi is just the hunter, which kills Bambi's mother. That's actually how he's referred to in the scripts as well. But see that Gala doesn't even need that kind of standard munitions. It's bringing much more heavy caliber. Starts throwing out the munitions towards that backline. As we said, they gave up a dragon for the Baron push, but they are more than happy with the gold they're picking up. They're going to be shredding through these towers. It's very easy for them to walk up and siege, with the Ziggs poke being so strong for this point in the game.
And the other thing is, they're just facing down a Chemsol, which they don't care that much about. They're not really about the CC, they're about the burn and the poke and the siege. The kills haven't been high, but the aggression certainly has been. LNG have got a stranglehold over the map, and they have been farming away a storm now on the Lily, who gets to go through the enemy jungle. They're sieging these turrets, and it feels like RA, the onus is on them to try and find a way to stop that happening. But LNG have been giving them so few openings.
They have, and this is the strength of LNG, where we've said that sometimes the early game plans can be a little bit lackluster. They're very happy to chill, and that can sometimes be okay. Sometimes it's very much not, though. In this game, though, they managed to get themselves a pretty big point of like economic strength, and they took that into the mid game, and it really worked out well for them.
And again, this was actually a pretty straightforward early game plan. It's let's play for a few grubs early on, and then just look for turrets and plates and just snowball from that. It's not particularly complicated, but it's worked out super well. Add in a few culls, and finally we might see a turret response on the other side for the first time in a little while, but it's an outer turret that's still taking a while to go, and on the other side, Satchel Charge and Corki will do a lot of work to turrets.
Yeah, it feels like LNG, they have just very easily just said to RA, we're going to keep pushing towers. What are you going to do about it? The answer is not very much in this case. Rare Atom have really gotten to the point where they've just failed to fight at all of the big calling cards. They have very much been spectators in this game.
Base broken in the bot lane. Inhibitor now the next on the docket.
The docket. Next on the
docket list is not a word,
no.
but docket is.
I think a docket is a kind of list. So when
that
you say a docket list, it's like saying a gun cannon.
It's a list squared, because that's how organised LNG have been in this game. As Xiaoshu goes through a wall and immediately meets the exterminators. Lilting Lullaby cleansed from Assume, but onto Xiao Hao. To back away another while. Zuko shoves through the mid lane. That turret doesn't just fall. No, it does. The cannon light gets a last auto off.
And I think maybe some grub burn helped out with that too. But again, LNG very happy to just say, look, we don't need a crushing fight to win this game. We just need to push down the towers. They don't have themselves soul points. Everyone could technically get themselves a soul in the next 2 minutes if they had a lucky enough fight. I don't think a Chemtech soul ends up changing the outcome of this game, though. Again, LNG have been farming multiple lanes, have been taking more turrets. They have a 6-turret lead, 8-2 right now. It does feel like LNG have just very calmly snoozed into this. There isn't really much we need to say more about that. LNG getting towards 4 items. That's a death gap on Gala, so that's even more powerful. And RA, I don't think their backline, even if they're clipped by the Ziggs now, can survive a fight. Legit.
And you look at it as well, there's a Mikhail's in as well. And last fight there wasn't. Xiaoshu had flash. Didn't manage to find a flash impale despite a flash away from Gala. There was a Valk away as well from the likes of Scout. But we haven't seen this Skarner find an angle in yet. And that could prove pretty difficult to manage here in a fight where you've got to somehow get through the front line. And the problem is, even if you kill off one of the Corki or the Lilia or the Ziggs, there's now 2 other members with so much damage. I don't think that guarantees you a win at this point.
I also think there's also something to be said about Zuka on 3 items could also assassinate a carry too. So it's like, so I think, alright, they're in this impossible situation where Well, no, it's not impossible. There is every chance that LNG leaves someone out randomly and they get a reset on the Jinx and the Viego. Maybe that solves the case for them, but the problem is that if one of their carries in a straight-up fight meets pretty much any member of LNG, that's kind of lights out. A Renekton stun could lead to a Ziggs bomb landing, not even the big one. That might just be game over at that point. And obviously, every other member on the Rift has a huge amount of damage. So RA, they're starting to push these sidelines. They're giving up a dragon, so they're stalling. They're stalling, all right. They're trying to get towards, I don't know, 4 items on the Jinx, and maybe that could carry something, but it's yeah.
Well, at the very least, Jinx just finished a 3rd, which of course is a big break point. So they've got that at least, but they can't afford to give up some of those dragons. The Xiaoshu's just flash W, the shield is broken, gets the Impale onto 2, into the Solar Flare, is pretty good. That could put Scout in a difficult position, got Ignite now on him as Xiaohao coming for the flank and look for an ult, especially as he slowed down. Viklet gets taken down, but Xiaohao cannot steal the body because wasn't involved. And now Zucker in a 1v3 duels doing lots of work does eventually fall, and it's a 2 for 2.
2 for 2, but RA will take the shutdowns and they'll take the reset potential too. LNG, they can't keep pushing across the board right now. They don't have themselves like the positioning on the waves to push into the destroy turret on the other side. With Baron up, but without Scout and Zucker available, they can't take that immediately. In 30 seconds, you'd imagine they'll teleport back out onto the map and take that one down. This is a side lane play from LNG, and yet Xiaoshu does end up dying in this, but he takes enough time and then combos the CC into the CC that they managed to get a good amount of damage to force Scout to retreat and threaten those resets, which we did say, actually, even though it's a very difficult scenario, they can get resets. And even if Xiaohao didn't get involved in that one, still enough to see it out to an even fight with the shutdowns for RA.
That's a big moment. You're getting a kill onto Viklet, who really needed it. It's another kill for Assume. He's now 3-1-1, who very much needed it. Getting towards, I think, the Vamp Scepter makes a lot of sense here at the 4th item because the poke is beginning to get quite difficult to manage. Lilia, Corki, Gala, all able to throw a lot of burn and just incidental damage at the Jinx before this was really struggling to mitigate.
Although, I gotta say, something like a Zeal for the movement speed also could have been really, really huge at points too. Like a base Zeal item can be very important in late game because it allows you to outpace some of these poke skill shots. We have Baron up on the table now. LNG, they have spent a lot of time waiting to see if they can get a game-winning fight. They've been happy to play things slowly. The splash goes on to Assume!
Cleanses, does manage to get away, but that will be a couple ults burn, but Assume's health bar also in a pretty unhealthy state. Still, he stays alive, cleanse down.
Cleanse down, 0 HP, has to reset. LNG might just go straight towards the Baron after this, knowing that Assume has an ult to commit to the play, but with half HP can basically do nothing else.
His Vamp Scepter and just hits level 16, so does manage to heal up off the wave at least.
Oh, that's true. Well, that's the bonus. The Vamp Scepter. Here goes Dway, but they don't manage to catch through the Merc Treads of Scouts.
Some damage back, now Dway in danger. The teleport behind is going to be brutal. Assume immediately begins to turn tower. Xiaohao ults over the wall, but the depth charge following him. Wait. Blooming bursts. And a watch out eat eviscerates enemy players. Looking for a little bit more. Can continue to find a few more of those Qs. They get the kill and they'll back away. The front line completely gone for RA.
Xiaohao does have flash, but the HP bars are looking a little bit suspect there from Rare Atom. An ult from Ziggs goes towards mid lane as well and massacres the carries of RA. Doesn't actually end up getting the kill, but the damage should be enough. Yes, the Jinx ult comes back as a bit of a love tap, but it won't stop the Baron going down. And LNG, I mean, love them or hate them, this turtle shell feels very impenetrable for the likes of RA. They gave them too much time in the early game. RA had to contest more. They gave up too much for free, and they're kind of getting the just desserts for it now.
And now, how on earth are you supposed to beat 4-item Corki Ziggs with Baron and your map state already pretty dire? Let's have a look at the replay, because the front line just doesn't exist for RA after the engage.
Not gonna lie, I've seen this a couple of times this game. Merctron's MVP for Scout. There are a lot of Mercury, a lot of tenacity rather has been taken out of the game. From runes and from other things, but seriously, Merctreds have been doing really, really well on Scout. He survived that top lane pick, survives here, baits RA to overcommit into that play when they thought they caught the carry. Instead, they just led themselves to the slaughter.
And the only consistent engage this game has been from Troy, especially because Xiaoshu hasn't really been able to find the angles on the Skarner in the team fights. So if you Merctreds the Leona, then what's the threat left? And there's still the Mikhails to manage. Xiaoshu again on a flank, but the Scorpion's a known quantity. The Crushing Maul's okay. Does get Dwayne into the backline, but the Blooming blows, and Scout picks up a kill there. But Lilia helps start Vikler on about a 3rd HP, running out of his own base to try and survive. It's a good Grim Visage to force Zucker away, but LNG says you're going to have to come back because we'll start attacking your Nexus turret. Xiao Hao burning down, not quite dead. Hungry low, Scout bounce over and drags people to Valhalla. Blooming Blows gets Jinx, the damage is gone. Game, set, and game 1 match.
LNG walk away with the first game against Rare Atom. It was a slow one, but Rare Atom basically just didn't contest them. That'll be the Nexus falling, and LNG, expected favorites, walking away with a very confident 1-0.
A slightly flubbed tennis reference there.
That's
I was
what
like,
it's
game
game
set.
set.
Like, no.
Wait, shit, it's a series.
Exactly. I was like, wait, there's still another game to go.
That's not how this works.
Game set, not quite match. Would have been more stylish, but here we are.
I really think that Gala had a great game on that 6-2. I think the double carries of LNG had a good game.